So first off, welcome. Thank you for joining, everyone. This is the Long Island Blockchain Council. We're focusing today's call on blockchain payment services. I think we'll take a few minutes to go around and introduce ourselves. Most of us here are familiar with Long Island Blockchain Council. I think we have Lance and Judy that are, our newcomers here. So Long Island Blockchain Council has started up as a Meetup community. And from there, we've decided to use this platform. And I'm sorry, Mike, I'm going to mute your line. There you go. From the Meetup, we have used this platform to go a little bit further and branch out into some of the business entities that are happening on Long Island. And we're really looking to connect with everyone that's working within blockchain technologies and teach them a little bit, have them teach us. I mean, this is a field that's moving faster than you can even imagine. So this community is just see who can get involved. My name's Craig Rudis. We started up Long Island Blockchain Council about a year ago, and that's me. I'll hand it off to Nick, who Nick had started with the Meetup community and graciously invited me to bring this further.
Awesome. Thanks, Craig. Hi, everyone. This is Nick Salvaggio. Looking forward to today's call. Like Craig said, started the Meetup group about a year ago now, and it's been a good time. We've learned a lot since then, and we continue to learn. And I'm looking forward to connecting further with everyone during this call and in the future.
Nice. I guess I'll go. My name's Chris. I'm part of co-founder as well. I started a few months ago with you guys, but I also run the EOS Long Island, which is kind of under the umbrella of Long Island Blockchain, and we're all just about educating the general public and getting people on board to understanding what blockchain really is. That's me.
Awesome.
And now
Mike,
I'm going to unmute Mike.
You're allowed to speak now, Mike.
I can't unmute him. Mike, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Hey,
Mike.
He's talking back there.
Hey, Mike.
Come join us over here. Oh, nice and wireless headset.
This is why it wasn't working.
Yeah, are you guys able to hear him, I guess, through my mic right now?
You guys
Yeah.
Okay.
Just get real close to Craig's face.
No, I think I can hear you.
I can't. Okay. Well, anyway.
It's the greatest technology. But hi, I'm Mike Rudis.
Did you see what movie did? He keeps trying to trick me. What did I do to get under?
Is there cartoons on in the background?
yeah, what is that?
That sounds like a super big problem.
Sounds like it.
And a super big problem is us. The super weird.
Okay. Sorry. Are you? Okay. Cartoons are gone. Anyway, this is Mike.
Hi, everyone.
Why don't Lance, you're front and center on the screen right now. Why don't you give us a quick introduction, please?
Hi, I'm Lance Jordan. I am basically I've been interested in blockchain for I guess probably about a year and a half now. I really I've been doing web development for about 5 years now, full stack web development, and I I guess in 2017, I guess it was 2017. I don't know. I started to get into blockchain through one of my coworkers who actually got into Ethereum back in when it first came out, and he was actually he built mining rigs at home, and actually ended up doing quite well for most of his investment was. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get Mike hooked up.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I won't go on too long, but basically, I'm interested in blockchain. I got into like trading cryptocurrencies and started learning about the technology, and I don't need to tell you guys that it seems quite clear that it seems to be the future of money or finance or trade, if you will, in many different ways and different applications. But I think it's a very interesting technology, and just looking to get involved, basically.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Lance.
Thanks, guys.
Judy, any chance you'd like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Maybe I'll even turn my video on. Give me a second.
Take your time. Technology has not been our thing tonight, so.
Okay. I just didn't expect to show myself. Anyway, hi guys. So I'm a long time old timer developer, and I've been involved in Bitcoin blockchain since 2013. And I've worked at several exchanges such as Bitfinex and BitInstant in the old days. My most recent contract was at PwC. I was blockchain with part of the emerging technologies group, where I was able to combine blockchain with IoT and artificial intelligence a bit. And, you know, part of my position was to determine what was viable, what wasn't. So it was, unfortunately, it didn't last that long, but it was, you know, about 3-4 months. And so that's what I'm doing these days. So what I would really like to do is help companies integrate IoT with blockchain and, you know, explain to them why we want to do this and where AI might come in as well, and any of the other newer technologies. So that's my thing.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, cool. Can you guys hear me? Because I've moved my headset down. Are you guys still able to hear me?
You sound a little low. You sound a little lower, but we can still hear you.
I'll try that. So why don't I just kind of go into a little bit about what we're looking to do here today. So tonight's talk is about blockchain payment services, and I want to discuss not only the history of the payment services, but what's out there today that we can actively use. So first off, I don't know who's been around or been interested in something called DigiCash, which went back all the way to 1989 by a guy named David Chaum. And DigiCash was one of the first real e-coin implementations. And if you remember 1989, you're talking about, I guess, Netscape and
not even Netscape yet. Well,
Mosaic. And what's really interesting about DigiCash is when in Microsoft, Bill Gates, he offered $100 million to David Chaum to integrate into Windows 95. And David Chaum rejected the offer. David Chaum wanted to do it by himself. It was unfortunately a centralized hub. So basically, you were relying on DigiCash to control and keep the regulations of the coins on his own server, and it never developed the trust. Obviously, we were already busy trying to figure out what this internet was. Adding on a layer of money and value just wasn't ready to work like that. So DigiCash went from 1989 to 1999, had a length of 10 years. In that time, there was something called CyberCash that popped up, and it had the same centralized coin concept. However, if anyone remembers the Y2K bug, the thing that everyone was terrified of, but didn't really do too much except for to CyberCash. All of the users of CyberCash fell victim to the Y2K bug, and they ended up filing for bankruptcy in 2001. Another failed venture.
That's interesting.
Then you have something called eGold. Now, what eGold did is you had two guys down in Florida that went and actually took gold bars or bullion and threw it in a safe deposit box in Florida, and they tied the value of this eGold coin to the safety deposit box. However, it ended up being prosecuted under the Patriot Act as an illegal money transmitter and got shut down in 2009. So again, all of these suffer from the same problem of being mostly centralized. You know, there was no community aspect that would actually control the value of the coins and the regulations. I'll move on to something called BitGold. And I entered BitGold onto the slide, not because it ever amounted to something, because the truth of the matter is it never got off the ground. In 1998, it was built by a guy named Nick Szabo. Now, if anyone's still actively looking around the market, Nick Szabo is still, you know, one of the influencers of Bitcoin and Bitcoin technologies. He was directly tied to the creation of smart contracts. He was the inventor of these automated smart contracts that enabled e-commerce protocols to provide some level of interaction, not necessarily trust, but some level of rules and interaction between strangers on the internet. It was never implemented, but it's considered a direct precursor to the Bitcoin architecture. Then I'm going to move on to PayPal, which obviously everyone knows, everyone uses. PayPal is not blockchain based in any capacity. However, just 2 months ago, in December 2018, the Innovation Lab at PayPal launched a platform to reward their employees in crypto tokens. And they will adopt blockchain technologies. The question is only, when will they adopt the blockchain technologies? And they're going to be direct competitor in all of these aspects. But you know, the more innovation, the better. And that brings us to Bitcoin and the white paper in 2008 by Satoshi Nakamoto, who may or may not be a real person. And this was the first open sourced peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The concept of Bitcoin, you know, everyone on this call is relatively familiar with how Bitcoin and the decentralized and distributed networks work, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but it happened in 2008, and it just recently, you know, went through its 10-year anniversary, and you look back at the history going all the way back to 1989, each of these companies lasted about 10 years. PayPal being the, you know, breaking the mold. They started in 2002. They're at 17 years old. Well, Bitcoin is in its infancy. You know, the developments that we're doing are tremendous, and we're only getting started. So let me pause there for a few minutes. Please, if anyone has any questions, comments, you know, inquiries about some of the technologies of the last 30 years, this is a call that I intend to run for the next 2 weeks as well. Same time, a virtual call the next week and the following week, where if you're interested in something, I'm going to go do some more research and bring you back some answers.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, the only suggestion I would have is, Craig, maybe put your headset on, because you're popping a lot with the microphone.
That's unfortunate.
And I feel you weren't when it was on before.
Okay.
Because it's keeping the mic constant away from your mouth.
Yeah, that just kicks the mic off of the sound. Are you able to get sound from that? Yeah. Because it was set for, bring your laptop over and boot that up.
Yeah, if we're in a talk format, I mean, I think it's all right, because you're going to mostly be talking, right? So it's.
I know, but he's an active participant in our conversation. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, out of all people, Nick Szabo is probably Satoshi. I personally feel he may be Satoshi. I'm not 100% sure, but out of all people, I really do think Nick Szabo behind the scenes had something to do with Bitcoin. That's just personal opinion.
I mean, here's where I land on who was Satoshi Nakamoto. And Chris, I don't know how much reading of his forum posts you've done, but the language and the
English, yeah.
The respect he portrays in all of his forum posts, he is just a kind, gentle, writer, and you have someone like Craig Wright who claims to be Satoshi Nakamoto, and he's out there on Twitter calling everyone an internet troll, hopes they burn in hell, he will kill them with fire. That's not Satoshi Nakamoto. That's Satoshi Nakamoto never once wrote on a forum post. Yeah. If you don't adopt what I am telling you to adopt, I will kill you and your children. But Craig Wright does. Nick Szabo, he has a bit of a harsh and brash tone if you follow him on Twitter. So I'd have a hard time believing that he actually is Satoshi. He could have certainly been one of the original contributors, but I can't see. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows, but like out of all, just to me with the whole smart contract thing and happening, just my personal opinion. But
well, I mean, obviously, this is probably a debate or discussion that could go on forever. But and until and unless the real Satoshi Nakamoto comes forward
as a web call. Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. We hear you.
You do. We hear you. Yeah.
I don't see anything. Weird. Whatever. I'm leaving. Yeah, but I can't hear anything through it either. But let's see what happens.
We hear you.
You do? Okay, go.
I guess.
Sorry, Lance. The floor is all yours.
I was just going to say that, what's curious to me, or the question that I would have is, what would provoke, if it was one person, what might, provoke somebody like that to just disappear from the face of the earth?
Well, one thing that I think is really cool is Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever it may be or whatever group it may be, he pushed against adoption too quickly, and you think someone that goes and builds this incredibly cool product and wants to roll it out, he wants everyone to use it as soon as possible. But Satoshi Nakamoto took the incredibly responsible aspect of, guys, don't let it grow too fast. We cannot sustain it. So the idea of disappearing is just yet another responsible act of, if I exist, if people can call on me to ask questions, the entire system will fail.
Oh, so he wanted to completely decentralize it by taking his hands off of it completely.
Mm-hmm. Like you see in all of these other communities, Ethereum wants to have Vitalik, who builds, who is Ethereum, but he has made it a very specific point to pull himself out and say, Ethereum, if I got hit by a bus today, Ethereum would keep going.
Right.
EOS, we had a call last week with Strongblock, and the guys on Strongblock, they had built EOS with them with Dan Larimer from the beginning, but were concerned about the centralization aspects and developed their own side organizations. That's what, it's kind of a self-defense mechanism for these decentralized currencies, is you cannot have a single point of contact that can be your single point of failure.
So do you think that PayPal is going to come into the market with their own centralized blockchain, or you think they're going to leverage?
I think they'll leverage some of the digital currencies. I think Square, they also, I think it's incredibly interesting that Square has one of the other bit licenses. And in New York, there are 7 bit licenses. Square went and got a bit license. You can buy some cryptocurrency through them.
What is it? Oh, when you say bit license, does that mean a license to sell Bitcoin? Or
bit license is a New York specific regulation, and it's considered one of the most prohibitive regulations in cryptocurrency governance. There are only 7 companies that have it. It's incredibly difficult to get, and companies such as Shapeshift and Kraken and I forget what the other company that left New York and refused to do business with New York because of the bit license.
Yeah, I remember trying to sign up for certain exchanges and certain tokens and so forth, and found that or for certain token sales and so forth, where they said, "Oh, if you're in New York State, you're not eligible."
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And that's because of the bit license. So it's really interesting that Square, which is like the Square is the guys that put that little thing into your Apple iPhone, and so that you can start accepting credit cards. They are a payment transactor, and yet they haven't rolled out any product for it. So they will, and so PayPal will be it will be doing the same thing.
I know that's a while ago. I think the Cash App, which is the same company that Square owns, right? I think you can buy or trade or buy or sell Bitcoin on it. I haven't done it, but I think
I heard that too.
I saw it, but I just didn't bother doing anything with it. But I did see it in the app. I guess my response to that is, so bit license is something apparently it's very difficult to get. Do you think that has a direct relationship to the whole financial industry and Wall Street being centered in New York?
I think we had a regulatory body that is used to the New York concept of regulating all the banks and being particularly prohibitive and restrictive. I can't speak to the originations. Maybe I'll take a little deeper at the bit license. I do know whoever created it, and his name escapes me at the moment. He built out the bit license and then said bye-bye, started his own company, which obviously then went and was able to go get a bit license. Nobody else was able to go get a bit license, so he gave himself.
It's so corrupt.
And it's also very expensive too, as well.
It's very expensive.
So
I think it's like $100,000 to actually get the bit license, which obviously any of these small businesses, and honestly, the language is horribly worded. I've read it 5, 6, 7 times, and I'm like, I don't know if what I'm trying to do needs a bit license. I don't think it does, but if I did, I know I couldn't get one. So what am I supposed to do? And that's unfortunately what all of the entrepreneurs in New York are experiencing. But they will repeal it. I think they will either repeal it or edit it very soon, because Gemini just launched a tremendous marketing campaign in New York. And I don't know how many of you guys are this is the Long Island Blockchain Council, but I don't know how much you guys visit New York. Gemini has a campaign on all the subways. They have huge window ads all throughout the city now. I mean, they're pushing really hard that New York is the central point. They have one of the bit licenses. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see, New York is the slow moving whale, and as we continue to develop around cryptocurrencies and governance regulations, and the technology expands and people start understanding it more, New York will be a really important factor in the adoption. Unfortunately, we're restricted by the bit license. Hopefully, it goes away soon.
We own some ATM machines, and we moved our operations to Panama because we were unable to run them here. Although our ATM machines, they theoretically also need a bit license.
Why?
Because you're really converting Bitcoins to cash.
Yeah. And I guess the exchange,
right?
the exchange is one of the prohibited actions. Okay.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I actually, it wasn't Gemini, but there was a new agreement where you now have 80 or so Bitcoin ATMs in New York.
How does that work? How do those work? If you have Bitcoin, you can withdraw U.S. dollars,
or you could buy Bitcoin with cash.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you walk up to the machine, you put your cash in. It assumes you have some type of a wallet. You scan in your address, and it sends it to it.
Some even will actually send it to your email.
Yeah, we all do that too. Yeah, we were caught at Coin-a-Pulse at one point, and that was one of the originators.
Are those machines? So those machines are in New York City now.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it up now. CoinSource received the first bit license to operate Bitcoin ATMs in New York. That was announced in November. And I think there was another one just recently. But I'm not finding it right now. I'll take another look and follow up with you guys later. But Bitcoin ATMs do exist in New York now. It's a recent development.
I
Interesting.
know they've been in other states, but yeah, New York, no.
Are there any? Oh, I would imagine there's some kind of fees associated with them. That anybody know what those are?
Each operator assumes their own fees. You set each machine to whatever percentage you want. The machines have not just recently started existing. They've existed for a long time. Just that a lot of them are illegal. They're supposed to have the bit license. But there's a website, I'm trying to remember the name, that will show you what's local to your house or whatever, and it'll show you where the machines are.
Yeah,
It'll tell you it's above, the exchange rate, etc.
Interesting. Very cool. I had another question that I'm very obvious is my first time in this group, and I think I signed up for the meetup quite some time ago, but either I missed it. If there were other meetups, I might have missed them. But I'm happy to be here today. I'm just a little curious to know a little bit more about Long Island Blockchain Council. You guys founded it, and you gave us a nice kind of brief, concise, really nice history of digital money since the internet. But I don't know much about the Long Island Blockchain Council and what you guys are about.
I'm happy to explain further. So Long Island Blockchain Council, we're established as a 501c6, which is a business league. And what we're looking to do, our mission is to promote the adoption, education of cryptocurrencies to gather a trusted and transparent internet. What we do, and a C6 business league, the best example of it is the NFL. The NFL is technically a non-for-profit organization, and all of the teams themselves are for-profit entities underneath. Yeah. So we've modeled the Long Island Blockchain Council, which is as a C6, it's called a business league, to do something similar. We're looking for all of the for-profit entities that are looking to create an innovative business and use our promotional services and educational services to bring the community together. So Chris runs EOS Long Island. That's just a meetup right now, but if he were looking to monetize it and bring it as a product, that would be an entity under Long Island Blockchain Council. We are working on several for-profit entities ourselves that are members of this council, but the goal of it is actually to meet people like you, Lance, who are looking to get involved in business and want to use our community to further your goals.
Very, very cool. How long have you been officially established?
I mean, we started as a meetup in late 2017, maybe middle of 2017. Nick and I, since then, decided let's keep expanding it. So this has been an organic growth, dating back to mid to 2017.
Cool. So is there a membership, or is there I guess I'm just curious to know a little bit more about the organization and what the scope of it is currently.
Well, the scope of it is just bringing everyone together. There is a membership, but currently the only entities that are under it are ourselves.
Okay.
But the concept is we'll continue to promote and gather and bring everyone to the table. And yes, there is a membership to be part of the council.
Okay.
Well, what we have designed is this Long Island Blockchain Council will do the community services. We are going to run these virtual calls, and we are going to run a couple of charity organizations. There's something called a donor advised fund. We're working with Donors Unite right now, or that's not the right word, and Mike could speak to it, except his microphone doesn't work. We have a couple of advisors in the charity or world. Mark, have you heard anything? You've just been sitting in the corner by yourself. That's really unfortunate, Mike.
What's going on? Is Mike's not?
He has an apple, and therefore I can't fix it. Yeah, but the council is meant to. Sorry, I'm just laughing at you being stuck in the corner like a punished child. The council is meant to offer the community services and run the charity development opportunities. And then one of the for-profit entities that we are building up right now is actually a payment services entity. I'm not going to go too far into that on this call, but it is the inspiration of hosting this educational event. And
Cool.
if you guys are interested in getting involved, speak to me on the side. We'll work something out.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. It's one of my former coworkers. Actually, they're based. So I work for a company that we have a bunch of remote developers that work on our team, and some of them are actually in South America. And he actually, I guess he started a company with a couple of other people doing using blockchain underneath to do international wire transfers or international money transfer down in South America, where obviously in countries like Venezuela and other places like where they have hyperinflation and things like that, there's certainly a really good need for the blockchain technology. But in any case, it's the way they've done it apparently is your people send through their website application. People can send international funds that arrive as soon as a Bitcoin transaction is completed. So they're basically using Bitcoin, and I think they're switching to EOS, or I don't remember which. We had a call about it recently, but they're doing this kind of thing where they're using the technology to allow people to send money internationally very quickly, which obviously is one of the great advantages of blockchain. But they've managed to put together, an application, and they're growing their company doing this. And I think they have, some startup capital and so forth. So very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy to, if we can talk and figure out how to coexist, I'd love to synergize. With that, perhaps I'll give a little bit about the next slide, which is why are companies going to start accepting Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? The first step is it's going to save money. Right now you're using credit cards and PayPal and Venmo, and it's expensive for these organizations. They're paying at least 2 to 5%. And anyone that's used Bitcoin knows the only fee is the fee of the miners. Miners have a minimal cost on both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and even less cost in some of the other currencies. But because of its decentralized nature, all you have to do is pay for the transaction. You don't have a bank that's got all the intermediaries. You don't have any settlement fees. It's just a digital ledger. So the most important part of this is that any organization that starts using Bitcoin as a payment processor is going to save money right off the bat. The next thing I want to go into is that the transactions are going to process quickly. When you do a transaction through, a credit card, a check, or etc., because there are so many hands in the pot, everyone has to gather the transaction, validate the transaction, and then send it over to their counterpart. If you want to do if I wanted to give you a check, Lance, you wouldn't get it for at least a week. You would get the check, you just wouldn't have it in your account for, call it a week. What obviously Bitcoin and the others, it happens almost instantaneously. Everyone complains that the transactions per second are so long. Bitcoin takes 8 minutes to actually complete a transaction, but it's in your account in 8 minutes. Yeah. Compare that to 6 days of a check, and it's not comparable. I don't understand how you can say that it's not fast.
Right. So, it's like people complaining about taking an overseas flight compared to like the days that happen to take a sailboat across the ocean.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. But these digital transactions, they happen instantaneously. And one of the services that I'll talk about in a little bit, it lets you settle in US dollars immediately, and it has no exposure to the volatility of price. So you can accept your Bitcoin, you can settle in US dollars in your bank account, and it'll be there in 24 hours, significantly less than any of the other transaction models that we've talked about.
So I think that's a critical point too. A lot of business owners I've spoken to have brought that up. They're like, I don't want to hold any of this because of the volatility of the underlying asset. I want to get my cash right away. So I think, right,
and they don't want to have that manual intervention of, okay, so even if I accept the Bitcoin, I don't want to have to spend time and energy understanding it so that I can actually move that Bitcoin that I've accepted and do something with it. If I don't use it, it actually has no value.
Right. So, can you elaborate a little bit more on how that works, if you know?
Yes. The service I'm talking about is BitPay. Now, BitPay, they charge a 1% transaction fee. Now, 1% compared to the credit cards of 3 to 5% is significantly less. Mike, who I think has a working microphone right now, he had worked in merchant services. We hear you, Mike. Mike has worked in merchant services for years, and as a merchant service provider, he was taking basis points of 20 basis points.
Yeah, an average about 20 to 50 basis points per customer, depending on their size and their volume. But yeah, I mean, it was that, as well as there was monthly statement fees, there was contract fees, there were PCI compliance fees. There's all kinds of shit that's rolling on there to make money, and it got to the point that it was just getting out of hand. So yeah, I mean, I'm all for this. I've been wanting something like this to come about for the last couple of years now. So it has become embarrassing to actually step into a merchant's place of business and offer them this credit card service where it's going to be where no matter what it is that you do as an independent sales agent or anything like that, to do the right thing by them. It's not up to you. It's up to the underwriting banks who are actually doing the processing, and behind closed doors, they're the ones sending these invoices, sending the statements to them every month that they can't make heads or tails of. Because the way that they construct them, they're never going to want to tell them the truth about how they're getting charged. So I've always been about transparency. So, having this technology really start to mature has been a big inspiration for us to really be doing what we're doing now, and be able to really go out there and help businesses take the money that rightfully is theirs, have it right away, and not have to really pay very much of anything for it. So,
thanks, Mike.
That's my present. Sure.
Awesome.
So Lance, we'll go through. I'm going to talk a little bit about BitPay. I'm going to talk a little bit about Coinbase Commerce, which is the other major player in the field, and then I'm going to talk a little about how there are so many other organizations that are just now starting up. But I'll do that a little after I've finished about the benefits of accepting cryptocurrencies. I think something that really needs focused on is the fact that this is an international currency. It has no borders. So when you accept Bitcoin, it has its exchange rate to anything. It is the central coin, and it will settle in whatever currency that you want it to. If you want, Italian lira, if you want Mexican pesos, it can instantly turn from Bitcoin to US dollar, Mexican pesos, Italian lira. It is a worldwide currency that does not have any downtime. You can interact with it 24/7. The ledger is running 24/7 across all of the nodes across the entire world, and I think that's really going to be tremendous value to merchants and to anyone that's using cryptocurrencies. Ripple has made their entire claim on cross-border transactions. Do you know how much money it costs to do a Western Union transaction? I don't, because I've never done one. But from what I hear, it's brutal. 30%.
Yeah, they're very expensive and very slow.
They're expensive and they're slow, and we can do it. The technology exists today to do it cheap and fast.
Well, yeah, I think the things like was it Western Union, or what was the other one? There was another one? Was there another one besides? What's that?
Yeah. Money something.
MoneyGram.
I remember. MoneyGram, yeah. But I remember hearing not that long ago that they were already looking into blockchain, just because, they already have an established market, but they're going to, obviously this technology is going to be, if it's not already, is going to be extremely disruptive to so many things.
Yeah.
But specifically for, international money transfers, they're going to, if they don't adopt blockchain, they're going to go out of business at some point. I just can't imagine them surviving over time.
You think about the international borders over the last 30 years, and borders no longer really exist in this digital electronic world that we have. I can be talking to someone in China now. I don't know where you are, Lance. You could be in China. I don't know, but we're here on a virtual call together. There are no borders between you and I having a virtual call, and therefore there are no borders between you and I exchanging value in a digital format. So right. I think it's tremendous that we're gonna see the world without borders of value.
I think Western unions can also look at this as an opportunity right now, where adoption is really low. If they can figure out a way to change their underlying systems to leverage this, they can still charge high rates that they probably will not be able to enjoy far into the future, but lower their cost structure considerably to become way more profitable. Right, at least for the short term.
Yeah. I wouldn't. We have to believe there's a lot of politics involved in these kind of regulations, and I'm sure that plays into the whole process as to whether how quickly a company like a Western Union is going to adopt these technologies. But these changes are coming. I think we all probably agree on that. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
So I'm going to move on to another concern of the existing merchant services. And again, I'm going to call on Mike in a second to explain some of it. But the fraud and chargebacks problems of credit cards and merchant services, it's a real burden for retailers. What happens with cryptocurrency? It is digital cash. I cannot give you a piece of value, call it 100 Bitcoin, 100 US dollars. I cannot give that to you unless I have it in my wallet. And then from the point in which I give it to you, you now have it. There are no intermediaries. There is nobody I can call and say, hey, I was just kidding. Give me back my money from Lance. In the retail industry, I've heard And again, Mike, maybe you can jump in and tell us a little bit more about it. But it's a real burden. It's a real problem for retailers.
It is. It is. It's been that way for several years. One of the another one of the aspects that a lot of merchants would ask me when I would set them up with to take credit cards was the chargeback policies of the bank that I was representing. Some banks would charge $25. Sometimes they would charge $50 per occurrence, depending upon which bank it was. And the truth of the matter is that there's really absolutely no cost to that whatsoever. It's a straight up 100% profit for the processor. None of it goes over to the customer, to the processing agent like myself or anything like that. It's just to cover, I guess, their costs for a little bit of paperwork to figure out did this person actually pay for this item or not, and just a little bit of back and forth. But yeah, there are some industries that get a lot of chargebacks. Things like hotels and oftentimes luxury items and things like that. People will go ahead and buy them, and they'll get them and claim that they never got them or whatever it may be. But basically, it opens up a serious fraud issue. There's a lot of people that are committing fraud online, and I just experienced this myself personally on my own website. I sell vintage guitars, and somebody had hacked my email recently and went ahead onto my website and bought a bunch of guitars. And I knew that this was all fraud. However, unfortunately, because of the way that the rules are written within the way that the banks work now, I'm actually having to eat the chargebacks, even though I gave back all the customers their money. I never took any of it. I never sent out any products. I did everything I could to rectify the situation. But now I'm finding that I'm paying fees from PayPal for the actual initial transaction, as well as the chargeback fees, because of the fact that the people that actually do own those cards that they had stolen are now calling, obviously, and saying, I never purchased this item. So now it's all on me. So I'm about to eat probably a couple $100 in loss for no other reason other than just Shopify just decided to go ahead and accept that transaction. So I've since gone ahead and switched it over to manual. So now I have to actually manually authenticate every single transaction that comes through and authorize them. This way I can do my own due diligence to see who the person really is, because quite honestly, I don't really even trust Shopify or any of these other underwriting banks that are supposed to be doing their jobs. Because if I'm going to be eating the loss on their own mistakes, I'd rather it be mine. That's for sure. But, it's been a big issue in the industry.
So that raises one of my other thoughts is there must be insurance against something like this. So you now have an entire industry that's probably doing some chargeback insurance that something like cryptocurrency would eliminate.
You would like to think so, but it's not, unfortunately. The only insurance that there is a statement from the associations Visa and MasterCard and now American Express and Discover underneath their PCI compliance. I believe they just raised it to, I think, a max of $100,000 per occurrence. But basically, if you go ahead and you follow their rules and you do everything you need, they tell you to do to be what they call PCI compliant, meaning, if you take transactions online through an e-commerce site, you got to make sure that you have certain software and systems in place to make sure it hides the identity of the people that have bought from you, so that, as well as their credit card numbers and things like that, people can't ever hack into them and find them. If you're doing them offline in a retail store, you're recording the numbers because it's a regular customer, say at a bakery or something, and every single month they say, send me a batch or whatever, and you go to charge their card, you have to hold it in a safe. And then you have to write down the people that work at the bakery and their shifts and like all this shit to log everything that could possibly be happening with it. And if you're not going to actually be doing those things, then you're held liable anytime there's any kind of fraudulent activity. So businesses have been put out of business very quickly because of this. And it's added just another layer of work, a lot of work that these businesses now have to do aside from just running their business, just to make sure that they can get their money safely and that they don't get defrauded. So it is becoming a very big problem.
Yeah, just added, when I worked for the Ritz-Carlton, in the accounting department, literally had one person that just dealt with chargebacks. They had to hire one person to just deal with all the chargebacks that they would have. Because you think of room charges, and people write a room number and scribble on it. So we would get calls all the time, and especially boutique hotel I worked out in Montauk, where you didn't have the signature on a piece of paper. They always sided with the customer. It was very rare that they would side with the merchant. It's very, very rare that they would side with the merchant, unless like you had video evidence, signature. Like you'd have to really, really prove that it was them. And who wants to go through that $60 dinner or a $60 lunch or $100 night stay? The hassle of it is more than it's really worth sometimes.
And so we're all victims to this because we have digitized a physical currency. In theory, we were supposed to have our US dollars backed by gold, and they have this currency backed by gold. It is a physical product, and then as we digitized our existence, you now have all the credit card companies, all of these online e-commerce companies that have taken all of these additional unnecessary steps in order to pass over the information. And what cryptocurrencies do is it treats it like digital cash, and you can eliminate all of these unnecessary steps that we're doing to make digital currency work with the existing currencies.
So, guys, just to counter that point a little bit, I mean, we're speaking a lot from the merchant's perspective, and it makes a lot of sense. But from the consumer's perspective, the one that's using the card, it feels like we're missing a big piece where credit cards aren't leveraging actual currency. It's leveraging the credit of the person that's placing the purchase, right? So there's a layer that's, from a consumer's perspective, we're not spending our money just yet. We're promising that we're going to pay it back at a future date, right? And
I mean, sure, but why are we doing that? And we're doing it because of I imagine it's ease of use.
It's easy
You're
use.
absolutely right.
It also extends our buying power, right? You got a lot of people out there that don't have the cash right now to buy that thing that they're buying right now. So they extend
we can
the life.
We can do that still in the digital world. We can borrow and with there's MakerDAO and there's other cryptocurrency tools that exist to expand our buying power, expand our credit.
Yeah, I think
the credit card does serve that purpose of expanding our buying power and going into debt, but
right, and it's not necessarily a positive thing. If you look at our society today, a lot of us, abuse that privilege. But I think another layer of that too is you are protected from your cash going away right away, so that these chargebacks do protect the consumer, right? So if their credit card does get stolen and somebody buys a $10,000 guitar, I'm not going to lose that money. If it was a debit card, it came out of my bank account. Now I have to go through this long, arduous process to get that money back. And for many people, they may not, their mortgage bank isn't going to be like, hey, you're still going through this process, but we'll keep. You don't need to pay your mortgage this month. So it is kind of like a layer of protection for them that they probably enjoy, and I think they would expect in the digital, in this new world that we're approaching, where we need those protections in place. And if my Bitcoin gets stolen, or if I accidentally do something where, kind of like the FDIC, right? They insure deposits of our money, right? If the bank loses our money, we still have insurance that we don't necessarily directly pay for, but it feels like some of those structures may have to evolve and come to be for.
You definitely need credit to expand the economy, and I think there are a few tokens that are working on lending credit through the cryptoverse, where you stake a certain amount of crypto and they give you a credit for it in US dollars. I think Salt does that, if I'm not mistaken. You're 100% right. Credit is huge into expanding. If nobody had credit, it would be very hard to grow the economy.
No one would own houses, right? I mean, not everyone could just buy a house with no mortgage.
No, exactly. I mean, this is the biggest thing, is that it's the easiest sell in the world to the merchant. It's not as so with the consumer, because, like you said, we want to know we can get credit. Can we spend money we don't have right now and pay it back in 30 days? And something like that is really, I mean, they're starting to make certain things available, but nothing has really come out and really, been adopted by the masses just yet. But that is something that will have to occur, as well as ensuring your transactions, like you said. An FDIC type situation or something like that for the crypto world has to have some sort of governance over what's going on. In fact, Craig and I were just talking about this at dinner. For people to really feel secure in actually utilizing this as their main form of currency. One of the things that I see coming out that I'm pretty happy it is like an escrow type service, and that would be basically something that would enable people to go ahead and make returns and have somebody held accountable if the service that they've gotten or product wasn't right and they wanted to go ahead and get a refund. There's going to have to be certain systems like this in place that people all agree to.
They exist. I'll, like I said, we're going to do this call again next week, and I'll bring a couple of examples of who's doing escrow services in the crypto community. But, we already have the extending credit, companies out there trying to solve the problem. I'm not saying that they have it nailed down, but we are working on it within the crypto world. The escrow services and there's. You have these oracles that are needed to validate that a transaction was done in good faith. These are all components of what we're going to need to do to expand this technology. We are at its infancy. So what are we going to do to adopt it? And I'm going to jump now to the next little icon, because I really like that icon too. But you're going to acquire new customers if you start using Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies. I think the transactional usage was somewhere in 1.5 billion last year, and this is before anyone really knows how to use it. Coinbase Commerce, I think they started at the beginning of 2018. BitPay, I think, started towards the end of 2017. We're in February of 2019, and the transactional usage is just going to continue to skyrocket. On top of that, I don't know how many of you guys have interacted with the Bitcoin maximalist of the internet, but they love their Bitcoin. They have grown this from a tiny little baby back in 2008 and said, this is so cool. And they have worked with the community and they have promoted the community. And to be honest, they've taken it a little too far if you're a true Bitcoin maximalist and they hate every other coin that's not Bitcoin. But the truth of the matter is, there is a community out there using it and they love it. If you are a company that goes out and says, hey, we're going to adopt this new currency, you're going to get new customers that say, not only the ones that already using it for transactional services, but the guys like us that are saying, hey, that's really cool. How do I use it? And I want to start playing around with it because I believe it to be the wave of the future. So, I think that's a really strong selling power to any retail business that's going to go out there and say, okay, I accept Bitcoin and I don't even have to take the risk of the price volatility.
So I know we were saying chargebacks. I was listening to Crypto Trader on NBC this morning, and there's actually a company called Simplex, which has come out that's going to be kind of the intermediary that will, for merchants to take the hit on the chargeback for the merchant. They have over 700 fraud protection points to guarantee that person is the person that they are. So it's very interesting that we're just talking about that. There's actually a company out there working on it. It's called Simplex.
Yep, and their title is Simplex, Enabling Payments, Defeating Fraud. Cool. I'll take a look through it. And the last little runner guy that you can see on our screen, we've talked about a little bit already, is that we are only at the beginning. There was a report in 2018 by Deloitte that surveyed 1,000 blockchain savvy executives, and their finding ultimately was we're getting closer to its breakout moment every day. And here's what's cool. The academic hypotheses of 5 years ago are steadily becoming a reality. So we went back to Nick Szabo back in, what did he have it in 1998? He created Bitcoin Gold and the smart contract concept. 2008, they went and made it live. And once they made that live, all of these concepts within the cryptography are being used. They're being proved, and they're being found to have a real life usage. So we're getting started now. You're going to see, nation states starting to get involved. You're going to see, we've already seen Walmart get involved, Facebook get involved, PayPal get involved, IBM get involved. Mike and I were talking about over dinner tonight, Fidelity Investment Services. They are tremendous supporters of the Bitcoin community. And you think about how much they have in assets under management. If they started, it was actually CZ, because I don't remember his full name, but CZ is the founder of the Binance exchange. And CZ said, if you think that about Fidelity using only 5% of their assets under management and investing it towards crypto, it's going to take the market cap, which currently is tremendously overinflated. There is no reason that all of these crypto companies can state that they are valued at X many $1 billion. It's just stupid. But even with their tremendously overinflated market cap, if Fidelity Investment goes out and spends 5%, puts 5% of their assets under management into cryptocurrency, you're going to see a 10 times, 20 times increase in the market cap of the industry. So that's a couple of bullet points of why a business accepts cryptocurrencies. If there's anything that you think that I've missed, please speak up. But these I see as the most important pieces of why a retail and why retail needs to start using this.
Yeah, I think for retail, getting started early and starting to learn the process now, I think is critical, right? You're going to get ahead of the rest of the market when they're going to be scrambling to try to learn it and get set up. You learn it now, you get familiar with it, and I think you're going to put yourself in a better competitive space.
Agreed. Sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
I just wanted to make a comment on business. So as far as business accepting, you're talking about business accepting cryptocurrency as a form of payment. I agree that seems like it will be the way of the future, but there are probably many different ways that happens. For one example was, my friend's startup that I told you about earlier, which is, obviously certainly for digital, online, and we see that, most, was it Toys R Us closed down last year? How many big, I think, what was the other one? Sports Authority went under, like all these big, huge games that.
Sears.
What's that?
Sears is going out.
Years ago, all these retail. We know that Amazon's putting a lot of these companies out of business. I think part of it is that, but the other part of it is, I think, you have, so much mass adoption of people who are now, it's normal for people to shop online. I remember, 10 years ago, people were like, you don't buy anything on the internet. That's crazy. Well, maybe not 10, there was eBay and things like that, but there was a time that in the not so distant past where, people wouldn't consider doing any kind of business. Now everyone does their banking online, they trade their stocks online, and people, do so many things online. Shopping online is almost like not even a thought. So I think.
But there are certain businesses that just cannot be replaced. Food services, market services, anything that you need instantaneously. I know Amazon's running around with drones that'll bring you something immediately.
Food services. You look at a lot of restaurants in New York City, a lot of it's delivery now. A lot of people are getting it, the food service establishment still stays, but a lot of people are getting things delivered. There are actual restaurants that don't have any seats, and just cook for delivery for Seamless.
Yeah,
Wow.
and you know what? And you know how much they're paying for Seamless?
Oh, Seamless is out of control. It's anywhere from 10 to 20% of each order. It's wild. They take a huge chunk.
I mean, it's an interesting model, and yes, in New York City and that's a place where yes, people order takeout and to go and whatever delivery all the time. But I think business models are changing as more commerce has moved on to the internet. But to your point, yes, there are always going to be brick and mortar businesses. I don't think they're ever going to completely go away. I just don't think that's realistic, and unless we just all get, the singularity and we all just become cyborgs, and we don't ever live in the real world anymore.
Yeah. Well, replacing all retail, is unlikely and a long ways off.
Yeah, people want to hold the physical.
I'm not saying that all retail is going away, but certainly a lot of big retail has gone away. Sorry guys, I have to keep my voice down a little bit. I'm waking our 4.5-year-old, so.
Oh no.
So I'll try to.
No worries.
I'm excited. Can't help it.
Us too. Yeah, I mean, everything is trending towards e-commerce, and that'll be a way of it. I mean, digital currencies are made for e-commerce. But let's talk a little bit about both the brick and mortar integrations and the e-commerce integrations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Coinbase Commerce, which everyone knows about Coinbase. Coinbase is one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges. They valued themselves at over $8 billion US. During the crypto craze of the end of 2017, they just skyrocketed. Everyone was using it. They then came out last year with something called Coinbase Commerce. They're trying to use their popularity and become, transaction services. Now, some of the challenges with them. First is that they do not automatically settle to a fiat currency. They do, at being an exchange and having a US dollar wallet or a representation of a US dollar wallet for them, you can use Coinbase Commerce and convert it into a US stablecoin or a US representation on Coinbase Commerce. But there is nothing currently within Coinbase Commerce that will immediately and automatically settle it to a fiat currency. Ultimately, with manual intervention, you can send it with a fee to into any fiat currency. They've also, as of December 2018, they partnered with PayPal. So they're going to use PayPal to access funds through PayPal withdrawals. They already are using solutions for brick and mortar as well as the e-commerce integrations. So for brick and mortar, you'll see a lot of integrations on the iOS and Android applications. And then on e-commerce, they have the API with all of the major e-commerce applications, Shopify and WooCommerce, etc. Another interesting aspect of Coinbase is that they are what's called a hosted wallet. Now, what a hosted wallet is anyone that's using Coinbase does not have access to their private key. You'll hear, from the crypto influencers that make the statement of, if you don't have the private key, you don't have the Bitcoin, you don't own it. Coinbase owns it. They are effectively loaning it to you, representing to you that you own it, but you are not the owner of that Bitcoin. You need their interaction, a third-party service, in order to get to it. So that's what a hosted wallet is, as opposed to some of the other services that, when you create a Bitcoin wallet or one of these other wallets, and that's where all the technology has been over the last couple of years, is in this wallet development. And many of the other companies, they are not a hosted wallet. You are the owner of the wallet. You are the owner of the funds, and ultimately, if you lose your private key, you are out the money. You know, we've heard all the stories about the guy that, you know, discarded a laptop and that had 10,000 bitcoins on it, and he's been combing through the landfill for the last 5 years, and the other guy, Steve Wozniak, that lost a password, and he got, he lost $70,000 worth of Bitcoin, and all of that happens because they were the responsible owner for their private wallet. It has its goods and its bads. Coinbase being a hosted wallet, they're going to give you that, that level of security, that level of help, but it's not your private key. But again, Coinbase Commerce came out last year. They are a really cool tool. One of the other major player in transaction services within blockchain technologies is BitPay. Now, just the opposite of Coinbase, BitPay will automatically settle your transactions directly to a bank account. So when I go and I put that guitar online, or I put Mike's guitar online and charge $10,000 for it, I am pricing it in US dollars. Both BitPay and Commerce will do the exchange rate based on, the public exchange rates, and say, okay, if you want to sell that guitar for $10,000, it is, 42,000 Satoshis, whatever the exchange rate may be. BitPay will instantaneously settle it in US dollars. Coinbase Commerce can do something similar, but as I said before, they will settle it into their wallet, and you still need to have an interaction to get it out of that. Coinbase Commerce, their transaction charges for a merchant are 0. BitPay, on the other hand, they have a 1% transaction charge. They have their solutions for brick and mortar as well as e-commerce. The brick and mortar is done through iOS and Android applications. And obviously all the e-commerce and integrations. Now, here's something interesting: is the Bitcoin compatible wallets required? Now, there are only a handful of wallets that users of BitPay can use with a BitPay merchant, and the reason for that is Bitcoin. There's a protocol called the payment protocol. I think it's BIP70, which enabled Bitcoin users to actually create that invoice, and not all of the Bitcoin wallets are currently using it. So you are restricted to only the wallets that I've listed on this page to use BitPay merchant services, and that is a bit of a problem. As I was doing my research into BitPay, I found, particularly on Reddit, there is a huge boycott of BitPay services, and people are very angry at it across the internet community. And one of the reasons that I found is for that, that same Bitcoin maximalist approach, where you are Bitcoin and Bitcoin Core, and everything else can, go jump in a river. Well, one of the biggest and most important divergences from Bitcoin and it's not Ethereum. Ethereum came out and it was its own thing, but Bitcoin had a fork in August of 2017. And in August 2017, they created Bitcoin Cash. You guys have all heard about it. It was a huge, monumental decision. One of the major influencers and miners of Bitcoin wanted to increase the block size, and they wanted to do a couple other, they wanted to integrate SegWit and Lightning payments, and all of this that the Bitcoin Core community didn't want to do. So Bitcoin Cash they did it. Now, how that plays into BitPay is BitPay was sponsored by Jihan Wu. Jihan Wu is I forget which mining pool that he runs. Chris just said it, but he's on mute.
Bitmain.
So Bitmain is like one of the major players in the Chinese Bitcoin pool, mining pool community, and he backed Bitcoin Cash, and he created, helped create Bitcoin Cash, BitPay partnered with Jihan Wu, and therefore the Bitcoin core maximalists believe that anything that supports Bitcoin Cash is evil and must die, and that's kind of been the theme that I've seen as I research BitPay. But what I think most of these Bitcoin maximalists are failing to recognize is that they are the experts in Bitcoin. They have been at it since 2008, and they have no appreciation for the retailers that are running around, and they still need to run their business. They need US dollars. They need to pay their taxes in US dollars. They need to price their products in US dollars. They need to be able to use US dollars. BitPay gives them that immediate facilitation, and I think that it's a little ignorant of the community, but that's still what it's experienced. There is a boycott against BitPay from what I've seen, and I think it's misguided. And then, we're reaching about an hour and a half on this call, and I do just want to talk a little bit about how there are so many other transaction companies that are working towards cryptocurrency transactions. You got Paybear, you got CoinGate. Some people may have heard about PundyX. PundyX is really focusing on point of sale tools and integrations. They're still in beta, but they have a lot of promise. BTC Pay is really a small developer that built something on top of BitPay, but it's gained a lot of traction, again, through that same, crypto community that I've done a lot of research through. But that one has a lot of support. I don't think it has a lot of funding, but it has a lot of support. And then one of the cooler ones in my mind, being that I am more of an Ethereum maximalist and the world's computer of Ethereum, is MetaMask. MetaMask is a Web3 interface to the Ethereum node. And again, MetaMask will only work with Ethereum and Ethereum-based coins, but it gives you full integration to the Ethereum protocol and all the things that you can possibly do and all the smart contracts that you can possibly do. So MetaMask is one of the most customizable ways to start doing transactions. So they are founded by Consensus, Joe Lubin out here in Brooklyn, and I'm a big supporter of MetaMask and what they can do there. And that's kind of my deck. I'll open it up for a couple more conversations, but I truly appreciate everyone joining us and walking through this with me. I am a huge believer that one of the first steps of mass adoption for cryptocurrency will be the transactional services. We have to be able to use this currency in order for it to be worth our time. The technology is tremendously cool. We all grew up with Napster and BitTorrent, and we were the internet pirates. That's just, we shared, if it was digital, we shared it. And that's what blockchain is. So.
Thank you, Craig. Great.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Very cool, guys. It was Greg. It was nice meeting everyone, and really enjoyed the call. I wanted to just ask, are you able to share these slides? I'll
put them up on liblockchain.org, our website.
Okay.
Reach out to us. My email address is craig@liblockchain.org. Jump onto our website. We also have a newsletter that we are sending out. But yeah, these slides, and as Nick mentioned, we are recall all these calls will go on to not only our site, but we're setting up a YouTube channel. And and join us next week. I know it'll be repetitive, but hopefully we get a couple new people that want to hear a little bit more about it. And I'll also look into Simplex and escrow services, and hopefully I've sparked some innovation in your own minds, and you'll come back to us with something new you want to talk about.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
See you
care.
later.
Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.